Welcome to your 5th guitar lesson ever. If you're still watching this series, I want to say thank you, and I want to address the future of this series. As some of you have noticed, I haven't published one of these in a while, and the reason is because the views on this series have gone down, which is totally fine. I didn't anticipate it because I was a beginner YouTuber when I started this series, but it totally makes sense. As we move down the roadmap and the topics get more advanced and more niche and less marketable, fewer people are going to watch, and that's fine. But the kicker is that the few people who do watch get a ton of value out of it. And so I'm going to continue this series over on Patreon. This is going to be the last video that's available here on YouTube, and there's a few reasons for that. In the modern day on YouTube, with the algorithm being as aggressive as it is, as somebody who's got to look out for the health of the channel, I really can't publish videos that I know are going to do poorly. I have found out firsthand how ruthless the algorithm can be, but you guys get a ton of value out of these. I like making them. I want this to exist, and really, that's exactly what something like Patreon is for, is a kind of video where the view count doesn't really reflect the value that the audience gets from it. So that's why this is going to live on over there. If you're watching this video right when it comes out, Level 5 ended up being a two-parter, so Part 2 as well as an accompanying deep dive is live on Patreon right now, and in the future, all the lessons all the way to the end of the roadmap are going to be there on Patreon. Thank you guys for still being here, and thank you for understanding where I'm coming from. Let's get into the lesson. All right, so the first thing we got to learn in Level 5 are the final 3 positions of the pentatonic scale. You see, in total, the pentatonic scale has 5 positions that stretch across the whole fretboard. And we already know 2 of them, the minor pentatonic scale, which is position 1, and the major pentatonic scale, which is position 2. The remaining positions, 3, 4, and 5, don't have a name. So they don't have like a name like the other ones, where position 1 is also called the minor pentatonic scale and so forth. These are they're just numbered. It's sort of unfair if you think about it, but we're going to learn them right now. I'm just going to show you the scale shapes. Know that they click together in the same way that positions 1 and 2 click together. So in the same way that, like, for position 1, if we're in the key of G minor, let's say G minor pentatonic, we got position 1. You know, we talked about how the top notes are the bottom notes of position 2. Same thing, so like the top notes of position 2 will be the bottom notes of position 3, and that fits for every shape in the pentatonic scale, the capital P pentatonic scale. So here, let's talk about position 3. Let's stay in the key of G minor here. We already covered positions 1 and position 2. Here is the new shape. This is position 3. Shifting up, here is position 4. And finally, at the top here, we have position 5. Now, something important to point out about position 5 is that, we've been talking about how each scale shape clicks together. Position 5, the top notes of position 5 are the bottom notes of position 1. So once we get to the top and we're kind of done, like once we've played positions 1 through 5, it just repeats. So you go back to position 1. So again, position 5 was right here. We just shift right back into position 1. And that actually makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because position 1 was originally down here. And if you think about the fretboard and you know that, okay, all the notes repeat after 12 frets, we just go 12 frets up, and now we have position 1, and it repeats again. Just 12 frets higher than where it was before. And the same thing keeps going. The Stratocasters don't have, that many frets, but I could go into position 2 again, and it would be the same as, where it was before. Just 12 frets higher, so on and so forth. If I had more frets, which I don't, but if I did, I could keep going with like position 3. I could even maybe repeat position 4 if you have some crazy guitar with a ton of frets. But anyway, you get the idea. And just so I don't leave it out of this video, conversely, position 5, which is way up here, can be shifted back 12 frets to be played way down here. You would have to use open strings to do it, but you could do it. And that's still technically position 5. But anyway, now you know all 5 positions of the minor pentatonic scale. We'll get into how to use them, in deep dives and that kind of thing. But that's where you start. You start with just learning the scale shapes, and that's how you do it. Those are the 5 scale shapes. The next thing we got to cover in level 5 are diatonic scales. So if you look at that prefix di or dia, that means 7. So if you think back to like our pentatonic scales with the prefix pent or penta, that means 5, and pentatonic scales were 5-note scales. Diatonic scales are going to be 7-note scales. And the good news is you've probably heard of these before. The 2 diatonic scales we're going to learn here are just called the major scale and the minor scale. There's nothing behind them or no other modifiers, not minor pentatonic or major diatonic or anything like that, just major scale and the minor scale. Here's how you play them. Let's play, just for the sake of an example, a C major scale. So we'll start here on C. That same rule from the pentatonic scale applies. So with the pentatonic scales, you know that your first note was your root note and that named the scale. This same thing. So our first note is going to be C. That'll be the root note that names this the C major scale. But anyway, you're going to start with your second finger, which is a little bit confusing. It's almost like the major pentatonic scale. We'll get into that in a second. But it'll be your second finger. And in fact, to avoid confusion, because at this point you guys are probably very familiar with the idea that you can move scale shapes around. Spoiler, you can move the diatonic scale shapes around in the same way that you can move pentatonic scale shapes around. I'm actually not going to call out what finger or fret I'm using. I'm going to throw the chart up on the screen and demonstrate it. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment or email me or anything. You start the major scale with your second finger. And now I'll play it backwards. That was the C major scale. Before we move on to how to play the minor scale, let's break down a little bit of theory, because this is important. So I said before that diatonic scales have 7 notes, and pentatonic scales have 5 notes. Just as a refresher, and you should know this if you've watched the Pentatonic deep dive, but like I said, just as a refresher, when I say that, I'm talking about 7, or in the case of pentatonic scales, 5 notes in 1 octave. So, I understand that we're playing more than 7 notes when we play across all 6 strings. But so long as we're playing within 1 octave, we're playing C to C, it's going to be 7 notes. You can count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then when we get to C again, we don't count that because we already played C. So we'll just get back to, we would count C the second time just as 1. So to count the notes out, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then when we get back to C again, we don't count it as 8 because we already played C. But anyway, there's the proof it's a diatonic scale. We talked before about how you can, the scale is named after the root, so you can move the scale all around, keep all the finger spacings, and just name it after your new root. So like if I wanted to play here's an A flat major scale, I could do that. Because I kept all the finger spacings, I just moved my root to A flat. You get it. Let me show you how to play the minor scale. Again, it's a diatonic scale. We're going to start on A minor here, just because, again, nice in the middle of the fretboard, I like it. Same thing as before, I'm not going to call out the frets or the fingers because I don't want it to get confusing. I'll just throw a chart on the screen. The scale shape's going to be movable anyway, so it's not super important. But again, if you have questions, just ask them. Here's the minor scale. And here it is backwards. Now that scale shape is just a little bit trickier than what we've done before, because on the G string, you'll notice we did actually shift back a little bit. We went, and then once we got here, we shifted our finger back so we could accommodate this note, which is sort of like below the other ones. And then when we go to the B string, we shift back up. That's your intro to diatonic scales. That was the major scale and the minor scale. Very similar to pentatonic scales, and actually, let's do a little bit of a theory breakdown really quickly of what actually makes pentatonic and diatonic scales different. The truth is, pentatonic scales are derived from diatonic scales. It's weird because on guitar we learn our pentatonic scales first, but from a music theory perspective, the diatonic scales are actually like a more foundational scale. In fact, to make a pentatonic scale, all we do is take the diatonic scale and we just remove our 4th note and our 7th note. And the reason we remove those 2 notes is because those notes are very close to their next door neighbor note. So those notes are each a half step away from their nearest note, and because they're so close, there's the chance for a lot of musical tension, what we call dissonance. Let me demonstrate this for you. Let's use the C major scale as our example. We have this. This note right here, this B, this is a B note. This is sometimes referred to by, the music professors as the 7th scale degree, but it's just the 7th note in the scale. It is very close to our root note, to the C. It's just a half step away, and because it's so close, you can have a lot of tension. It sounds okay when I play them back to back like this, but if I play them at the same time, like I can right here, if I use the lower octave, it sounds kind of muddy. It doesn't sound very stable. It's arguably kind of pretty, maybe it's a little jazzy, but it's certainly a little bit dissonant, is what we would call that, when something doesn't sound very stable. The same thing can happen with our 4th note, 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's so close to our 3rd, it's only a half step away. Again, if I use the magic of octaves, you can see this really easily. That's why most guitar teachers, including myself, recommend learning the pentatonic scale first, because you can immediately start using it to take solos and maybe write music. You can create a melody or a guitar solo with it. And because all the notes are nice and far apart, you don't have any notes that are half step away like you do in the diatonic scale, it's very unlikely that you're going to run into something that has a lot of musical tension and that maybe you have to do a lot of musical calculus to get around the tension. You just have a nice, easy shortcut, the pentatonic scale. All the notes in that scale are gonna sound pretty much good if you play them, right next to each other, that kind of thing. So far in level 5, we've talked about the final 3 positions of the pentatonic scale. We've talked about 2 diatonic scales, the major and the minor scale, and we've talked about the theoretical differences between pentatonic and diatonic scales. In order to keep this digestible, I'm going to finish off level 5 with a part 2 video. But again, if you have any questions about anything that's happened in this video, feel free to let me know. Feel free to ask it in the comments. I don't know, maybe throw a rock at my house with your question taped to it, whatever you got to do. Hey guys, present day Kevin back again. Just want to remind y'all that the part 2 to this video is going to be over on Patreon, and actually there ended up being an accompanying deep dive. It's a deep dive on relative versus parallel, major and minor scales. It's a music theory concept that's imperative for level 5, and that deep dive will also be on Patreon. Thank you guys again for watching this series. I hope that if you've gotten value out of it, then you'll consider checking out Patreon. I really think you're going to continue to get value out of it over there. And as always, thank you for watching.